Hey guys, and welcome to a showdown featuring Ninja Ping Vin leading the forces of the High Elves up against Bonus versus Bread, aka Poison Ducky, leading the forces of the Lizardmen here. And it looks like we're going to see some pretty crazy units we don't often get to see. So without further ado, let's hop in here and have a quick little look at this High Elf build. Now for the front lines, we have White Lines of Chase. Really solid choice in this matchup. White Lines are a tiny bit niche sometimes in their application, but they do really decent armor-piercing damage here. Helps them get through those thick, scaly hides of Saurus Warriors as well as the bigger dinos. Allows them to, contribute to multiple different enemies. In the secondary line, it looks like we have triple basic archers, which is a pretty interesting pick. Should be able to do some decent damage, I suppose, to salamander hunting packs, skinks, and the like, but they do lack the AP to deal with the big monsters. But it looks like he has two little fellows over here who should be able to deal with enemy monsters rather comfortably. We do have one unit of Dragon Princes, the bad to the bone warriors who used to once upon a time ride into battle upon mighty draconic steeds. Instead, they're now kind of stuck onto horseback, but still pretty damn awesome looking people. Come in with some really nice shock damage all round, go toe to toe with the Lizardmen Cav. We also have a couple of units of Illyrian Reavers, fantastic for running down skink skirmishers and pushing forward and getting nice cycle charge damage. For the leadership core, we do have a Mage of Life coming with Earthblood and Regrowth. Oh, not Regrowth, sorry. Earthblood and Shield of Thorns. Surprised to see no Regrowth here, especially with two dragons on the field, but perhaps trying to get the best value from the Earthblood if those dragons are going to be riding together as much as possible. And speaking of dragons, up in the skies here, we do have a glorious Moon Dragon. Dragon you're going to get to see terribly often is the middle tier dragon. It does indeed go star, moon, sun, and I quite like this pick a lot. The Moon Dragon's Breath is actually better at taking down kind of units than the Star Dragons, although the Star Dragon is better at focusing down individuals. And we have the ultimate Star Dragon as Imric does ride into glorious battle here, coming in with the Star Lance, the Dragon Horn, as well as Lord of the Dragons, in my opinion, an incredibly powerful hex, because it can be used both on characters as well as units. But really fun build. If we look across the plane of battle here, we have a very wide Lizardmen build being brought here by Poison Ducky. We have Skink Cohorts mixed in with the Regiment of Renowned Cohort of Sotek, a really good, sticky, unbreakable unit. And more Skink Cohorts just dotted into the sun, so looking to wrap around. And I do fear a little bit for the Archer core of this High Elf build, with so many nasty skinks dotted across the battlefield. We do have a Ark of Sotek Gary here, the Bastillodon, the man, the myth, the legend. Arguably the, not the memeiest unit in the entire game, but probably in the Lizardman roster. Still can do some decent work. It's basically like a very slow moving chariot with a poison effect, so it's not terrible, but at the same time, price wise, it's not the best, but it's a really cool model. I do wish we got to see it a little bit more often. On either flank, we do have heavy cav contingents. We have Cold One Spear Riders as well as Cold One Riders mixed in with the legendary Horned Ones, a unit again I wish we saw more often, so I'm loving this Poison Ducky build so far. The Horned Ones look incredibly cool. They can also go toe to toe with the elite of the High Elves. Do of course have to be wary though, as they can rampage, and getting stuck into spears, Phoenix Guard and the like isn't too nice. Looks like on the other flank we have the exact same composition, although they're also going to be rolling with Tehenowin here, the Red Prophet, on a Horned One himself. Interesting to see him not on his mighty Stegodon. He's going to be coming in with Stand Your Ground, Arcane Conduit, Transformation of Kadon, which of course is the Manticore summon, and Flock of Doom. Probably the two best spells in the lore in my opinion, at least as far as it goes for kind of most matchups. But here we go. So can the smaller elite force of the High Elves overcome the massive skink and cavalry onslaught? And of course, the Bastillodon with the Ark of Sotek. So it looks like the Illyrian Reavers are going to be darting forward here. I'm a big fan of this. If they do some cycle charging into the front lines, they can get some really nice free damage on the skinks. There's pretty much no range coming in from this build, apart from the little skinks on the side of the Bastillodon. A really nicely timed Refuse to Die, though, popped on the red-crested skinks here. So not actually going to lose any models, but they will still lose HP, so still some good charges as the Alien Reavers come in and do some nice free shock damage here, and you might as well. It looks like up in the skies, Imric has taken a few javelins here from the rather angry Bastillodon, as the archers do loose their first few volleys, aiming at the skinks here, which isn't the worst idea, especially aiming down the cohort of Sotek and trying to pick away as many models as possible. Dragons have gone out wide. Looks like they're contemplating going after Tehenowin here, but are going to be falling back to the main battle line. Alien Reavers desperately trying to get behind their own lines, but this is a very small high elf build, not too much to protect these archers, and the huge cav core is coming down on the flanks, and this is going to be some very scary stuff. The dragons certainly want to get back and help protect their troops where possible. White lines of chase are pushing forward heroically, charging into the horned ones here and getting the charge. However, getting counter-charged by the Bastillodon itself is going to tear these white lines up pretty badly. Over in the far side, it looks like Alien Reavers did manage to pop through on top of the cohort, doing some nice shock damage, and the Dragon Princes have ridden into the thick of it here, into the triple cavalry, where it looks like we are going to be seeing a buff of some description, a shield of thorns to keep these guys alive and active, and we are certainly going to see some massive breath attacks coming down here now, doing some lovely damage across the board. You can see all of the dead cold ones, my poor dino boys, have kind of dropped into the mud there. As the Moon Dragon does pop in, it has Shield of Thorns and an Earth Blood going down, so it's a pretty good engagement overall for the High Elves, especially if Imric can get over here. However, it looks like we do have a Feral Manticore summon from the Lizardmen, who can now swoop in and try and maybe turn the tide, as we have another breath attack coming in, this time doing slightly less damage, but still helping finish off the horned ones. It's pretty good value. Now, everywhere else we look, there are Cold One Spear Riders chasing down archers all over the field, and as predicted, the skinks have managed to push through and overwhelm the High Elf force. We still have white lines fighting in the front line, doing a decent job, although it looks like Bastillodon has managed to push into the back line, and this Mage of Life, in a really compromised situation, needs to escape the skink cohort, get over here and help in the big blob fight. If there is a way back into this for the High Elves, it is certainly going to be with their Dragon Princes and Double Dragons, who are doing a fantastic job in the centre pocket here. They've been hit by a Flock of Doom. That's not going to do too much damage to them. White lines are chasing, on the other hand, taking a little bit too much there before getting terrified and then rallying again to try and hold the line. Another Shield of Thorns has gone down, keeping these dragons nice topped up and healthy here. And they're doing a decent job, although they are completely surrounded by cavalry, manticores, Tehenowin, and all that nasty stuff. Over on the far side, this Mage of Life unfortunately has got a rather angry Bastillodon, kind of rutting its hooves into the ground before trying to chase her off. Mage of Life is going to be pretty key here. If these dragons can get back up into the skies, start kind of unifying some of this high elf build, popping over here, saving the white lions, saving the mage, trying to get some of the archers back online. The high elves are certainly not out of this yet. Very close game. Balanced power is actually slightly high elf favoured, probably due to the fact Imric is incredibly healthy, whereas Tehenowin has taken a little bit of damage, it does look like. He does go to try and assassinate the Mage of Life, but quickly disengages and tries to get back towards friendly troops, realising that the big, scary Imric is on the hunt. Looks like some skink cohorts, though, are pushing over to try and chase off the Mage of Life, and she's dangerously close to the board edge here, but has rallied once more. A very brave Bastillodon hops in the way of Imric, saving its Liege Lord Tehenowin and blocking him in and poisoning Imric. Now, the poison does pretty decent, minus 20% to kind of, armor piercing, missile damage, weapon damage, all that good stuff, but also lowers the speed by 24%, allowing Tehenowin to escape to the centre pocket and now isolate the Moon Dragon. However, the Moon Dragon is holding firm for now. We're probably going to see a gigantic breath attack coming in. Cold One Spear Riders and Cohort of Sotek paying the price here, although we do have another Feral Manticore summon. If only this Mage of Life was saved a little bit earlier or came back over to the centre pocket, another Earth Blood on top of these dragons would be pretty devastating stuff at this point in the game. Elsewhere, it looks like the Horned Ones have been left in combat far too long up against the White Lions, and they are starting to rampage here. Still, 80 kills is pretty impressive stuff, so at the same time, they've certainly paid for themselves. Skink cohorts in here as well, struggling to bring down the might of the White Lions, but elsewhere, Poison Ducky doing a fantastic job of chasing off archers, chasing off the mage, and making it all about the dragons. And yes, dragons are incredibly powerful, but when surrounded by so many potently deadly foes such as this, it's pretty scary stuff, and it looks like the Moon Dragon is gone for here. I would probably seek to chase it off if possible, but it looks like the Feral Manticore instead is deciding to go after Imric, which It's also a very viable option. Lovely play here. You can see he's bringing in the cold ones to try and pin in Imric where possible, whereas Ninja is chucking in Illyrian Reavers, trying to free Imric, allowing him to get back up into the skies. And the Moondragon has managed to come back into the fold here with a huge breath attack darting down the line, killing many a foe. And it looks like Imric may be able to get back up into the skies, so the lovely sacrifice of those Illyrian Reavers has allowed the dragons up into the air. Although Moondragon is contemplating going in unsupported here, probably best to finish off the Ferromanticore first before darting back in. Now, one big threat actually, funnily enough, is the much memed about Arc of Sotek, because of the poison it can apply to these dragons will really help the Lizardmen kind of drag down the opponents. But it looks like the final showdown of Ultimate Destiny has kicked off here. The Dragon Princes launch in. Imric and the Moondragon have both engaged, and Cold One Spear Riders are starting to be terrified. We do get a big stand your ground, however, and a Flock of Doom coming in from Tehenowin himself. But Imric is darting in there, and if he can get 1 or 2 good hits on Tehenowin, this could be all game over for the Lizardmen. Moondragon does get up into the skies. Looks like he can do some cycle charging. Dragon Princes are still engaged, although now they are terrified off and running for the hills. Moondragon has managed to isolate Tehenowin. Lord of Dragons has gone down as well, which is going to neuter both his damage output as well as his melee defense here. And he is getting absolutely tanked by the Moondragon, but the dragon itself is a very low leadership here. And looks like it's going to be fleeing for the hills just as Imric does blast his Warhorn here. But Tehenowin down to 226 health is broken here and going to be running, and all of a sudden things start to look very bleak for the Lizardmen. Although we do have some skink cohorts rallying, there is white lions popping in here to push away the skink cohorts. Elsewhere we have another unit of skink cohort coming back to the fray, and another unit chasing off the Mage of Life, which will certainly help the balance of power. It looks like the Moondragon has managed to rally. I think it's used all its breath attacks. I'm trying to think off the top of my head how many we have seen at this point. But coming in, maybe getting a breath attack, or even just a nice charge could be pretty key. Dragon Princes as well as Imric are now running over the cohort of Sotek, down to just 206 health. They are taking a little bit of a pounding, but doing some decent damage back to the Dragon Princes. Maybe even able to break these guys here. Down to 14 health, looks like they are starting to stabilise a little bit. Tehenowin floating around once again on the battlefield, trying to get to the safety of the skinks. It looks like the white lions were forced off from the field, and now there's a decent amount of skink cohorts dotted around. We do have some debuff coming in here, which is interesting. Possibly a Flock of Doom that was going to go down on the white lions, maybe, as they were running away. I'm not sure there. And the Moondragon is so close to breaking. Double bronze chevron at this point now is pretty impressive stuff. And Imric is up to 96 kills, helping to finish off the last couple cohorts here. And it is going to be Imric pretty much against the world. Now, if they can snipe Tehenowin, if they have any breath attacks left, there's so many varying kind of options here at this point. Looks like that mage still being chased around but not forced off the field is really kind of helping them out at this point. As it looks like a breath attack did come down, soaking the skink cohorts and bathing them in glorious fire. As Imric comes in, and surely this is the end for Tehenowin. No, he sneaks away, dropping a stand your ground as well to try and buff up these troops is certainly going to be pretty good. And we do also get another Flock of Doom coming in, I think, but a little bit mistimed there. As Gary goes after Imric in one-on-one combat, the mighty battle of the Apex Predators there. Skinks as well as Horned Ones are going to get some nice rear attacks onto Imric, who has popped all his buffs. The Moondragon lands onto Tehenowin, crushing the ancient skink, and it looks like there's a massive ramp going in for the Lizardmen. Skink cohorts are terrified, but Gary pops down his poison, trying to threaten Imric, although a Lord of Dragons has been popped on him in retaliation at this point. Now, one big thing that could come into consideration is those skinks and mage in the far side, as the mage does indeed rally. Skinks pushing in, trying to drag down the Moondragon, who is now triple chevroned up. Very impressive stuff. And Imric does get back up into the air, but that has allowed the skink cohorts a little bit of a second wind here, and they do come back. A big breath attack goes down, doing some pretty solid damage onto the Arc of Sotek here, before Imric follows up by charging headlong in. The Moondragon has completely shattered, however, at this point. And it is Imric, I believe just his mage left, yeah, 2 versus 252, which is pretty bleak odds. But when you're a dragon, those odds all of a sudden become a lot nicer. But in the distance, it looks like the mage is slowly being dragged down by skinks, although Shield of Thorns has been popped on herself. And the skink cohort once again are wavering here, as it looks like the Bastiladon is going to be used to cycle charge, one of the slowest cycle charges in the game. I expect to come in with a nice little rear attack there, and when it does connect, Imric isn't, the tankiest of lords, so it can certainly do some pretty decent damage here. Hopefully we get to see some cool sync animations. But Bastiladon is holding firm for now, and luckily it's not doing the animation where it turns around and hits with its tail, which yes does look cool, but your melee defense will not be thanking you for it. And we do get a later game poison once again coming down on top of Imric, neutering his stats as well as his speed, and all of a sudden allowing the skink cohort to do a decent amount of damage. Imric down to 790 health in the distance. It looks like the skinks have managed to drive off the mage, so those skinks over on the far side are going to be alive at this point as well, and could possibly come back if they can make it in time. Looks like a Lord of Dragons once again popped down on the Bastiladon, which is the real threat here. The skinks aren't going to be doing too much damage, and it looks like they are terrified away anyway at this point. And with the Lord of Dragons, he's still going to have to fight. He doesn't really have any options at this point. -7 leadership, and the Bastiladon does break, but so does Imric. And all of the forces seem to break simultaneously there. It looks like the skinks were just terrified, whereas Imric did indeed break. And I believe the skinks on the far side there probably won it for the Lizardmen, because they weren't near the action and couldn't be terror-outed. You can see all the Lizardmen units are running for the hills, and it's just the glorious troops in the distance scream victory. A very valiant defeat and crazy game all round. Massive shout out to a Ninja for sending this one in, and Poison Ducky, aka Bonus versus Bread as well. What a fantastic game, seeing some pretty unique units in the form of the Horned ones and all of the dragons. Hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did, feel free to give it a big old thumbs up and comment. I do reply to my comments. I'm just a little bit slow on it, so I've got about a week worth of comments to reply to at the moment. Hopefully going to be doing that later today. And yeah, feel free to subscribe for more Total War Warhammer content. Now, before I do a little breakdown of the builds, just a quick shout out as well. Poison Ducky, aka Bonus versus Bread, is also a content creator here on YouTube. So if you did enjoy his glorious build and the heroic victory there for him, make sure you go and check out his channel. He does do Total War Warhammer content, as well as I believe plays Among Us at the moment, which is a really fun game. Been certainly enjoying a lot of his streams recently. So for the build, it is the Double Dragon Gambit coming in from Ninja, and anyone who knows Ninja, he's been a big fan of the channel for a long time, very kind of popular, and is seen very often in my Discord. He loves a Star Dragon, so no kind of surprises seeing him coming in with the Double Dragon here of Imric and the Moon Dragon, and the Dragon's nearly carried. I think if he could have saved the Mage of Life instead of trying to get greedy and kind of snipe out to Henwin when he did, I think the game probably would have gone health favoured. 1 or 2 more Earthbloods could have really changed this around, and I don't think he had enough troops to protect his archers either, so I think actually committing full combat here probably would have been a better bet. But regardless, very well played. Good cycle charges early on with the Illyrian Reavers, getting that good shock damage on the skink cohorts, and nice micro with his dragons. As for Bonus versus Bread, seeing the Henwin and Horned ones and the Ark of Sotek in action, it's always a treat. And the Ark of Sotek came in really clutch at the end, poisoning Imric, dragging him down slowly through attrition. And, you know, the Ark of Sotek, he's there to buff up. He's the hype man. He kind of buffed up those skinks with the poison going into Imric, made the skinks feel like they were world beaters, and that allowed them to drag down Imric himself. Anyway, guys, until next time, peace, and as always, stay awesome.